I sit on this stone bench in a sea of people. I should get up and get some water, Gatorade, Powerade, something to alleviate my thirst in this heat. If I do though, I will lose my seat and I would have to stand like most of the people here at this party. It was a decision I have to make, sit here on this hard stone bench or stand, lose my seat and have to go through the rest of the party on my feet. I'm choosing to continue sitting. The host of the party, our head honcho, was barbecuing over an open pit. People were lined up to get theirs. Barbecue as hot as it was, mid-August in the deep south. I had to be here. He required it. He knew something was bothering me, so he made a suggestion. Problems sometimes seem more manageable if you write it down. It forces you to really think about it and evaluate your thoughts on it. He even supplied me with a notebook and pen to write it down. That was one of the few times I can say he seemed actually human to me. Usually he would just dismiss me and my problems. He definitely wasn't a nice person. So I sit here on my aching peach, writing down what has been going through my mind over and over since that fateful day. My name is Kurt Bennett. I'm 30 years old, married, 5 years, to Robin. No kids yet, but we were planning on starting a family this year. I went to Notre Dame, and when I graduated I obtained a great job in sales at Siemens in their medical health care division. With the baby boomers flooding the market with their health needs. My future's so bright I got to wear shades. I'm on top of the world. Some people say I've led a charmed life. I say that I didn't make the bad decisions other people did. I've known a number of people like that. My brother is one of them. I don't understand how two brothers, twins, raised in the same house, by the same parents, at the same time, can turn out so differently. I guess it proves nature over nurture. During our formative childhood years, Mom and Dad would say, "Brush your teeth after every meal." I did, he didn't. Today I have great teeth, he has a mouth full of fillings. The stove is hot, do not touch. I didn't, he did, and made a trip to the hospital for burn treatment. Look both ways before crossing the road. Although he never actually got hit, there were a number of close calls that I witnessed from the side of the road. I think you get the gist. This continued throughout our teen years and into adulthood. I don't know how many times I heard my parents say, "Keith, when are you going to learn your lesson?" That question really became the crux of my story. You see, I never learned my lesson because I never tested anything. I didn't try smoking. My brother got sick and puked his guts out. He was 14 when he got drunk for the first time, stealing beer from a neighborhood grocery while they were getting a delivery. Again, he puked his guts out and also got in trouble for stealing, grounded for 2 months. I can't tell you how many cars he totaled, either from speeding, drunk driving, or both. Again, I think you get the gist. I never did anything wrong, so I never learned my lessons. That all changed one fateful day. I was making my rounds to my current customers, checking to ensure deliveries were correct and on time. I also would see what new plans they had in the works so I could anticipate needs and have proposals made up ahead of time. I was visiting a senior center facility in a high-class part of town when I saw my wife's car. I knew it was my wife's car because of the "I love dolphins" bumper sticker. It was in the driveway of a huge home. It must have been 6,000 square feet, all brick, on a lake. I wish I had a house like that and the money to go with it. She worked about 15 minutes away from here for an upscale sports/exercise apparel store. She must be making a delivery. I slowed down to say hi and parked along the curb about a 1/4 block up the street. I was just about to get out when the front door opened. Perfect timing, I thought to myself. She started out the door, then turned around and gave the man standing at the door a huge kiss, tongue and everything. He grabbed her peach with one hand and her breast with the other as he returned the kiss. I guess he was the one making a delivery. I sat there stunned. Luckily, she pulled from his driveway and headed the other way down the block. I turned around and slowly drove by the house. I wrote the address down and then drove out of the neighborhood. I drove back into the city and stopped at a bar. I needed time to think. I ordered some nachos and asked the waitress, "What's a good drink to drown my sorrows in?" Again, I was a good guy. I rarely drank. She said, "Whiskey seems to be the drink of choice around here for that." Well, I've never gotten drunk before, but today seems to be the perfect day for it. Give me one of those, I said. I'll give you a 7 and 7, that should do you well. I don't think that if you have never been drunk before you should drink straight whiskey. After the second one, quite tasty by the way, I could feel it. I gave the waitress my brother's phone number and told her to call him after I was passed out drunk. I also gave her a 50 for the drinks and her tip. For going above and beyond and being so nice about it. I don't remember anything else except waking up puking my guts out in a toilet. I had also vomited all over my shirt too. After I tried to force my stomach out of my mouth with dry heaves for the 100th time, I laid down on the cool tile and passed out again. When I woke again, I had a splitting headache. I was lying on a bed almost naked. It wasn't my bed. My brother came in a couple minutes later after he heard me groan in pain. Well, the good brother is not so good after all, he said. Sure, not so loud, I said. So do you want to tell me why you, of all people, were sitting in a bar getting drunk? He asked softly. Robin is cheating on me. What? The perfect marriage of the perfect couple is having problems? He said. I could hear the sarcasm in the tone. I guess I deserved that. I had not been kind to my brother with all the trouble he had brought upon himself growing up. So how does it feel to have problems and wake up with a hangover and puking? He asked. I'll never do that again, I've learned my lesson. Keith had called Robin last night and told her I was feeling under the weather and I was going to stay at their place overnight. I sure am glad he did that. I wasn't ready to face her yet. So tell me what happened, he said. So I told him the day's events that led to my drinking in a bar. I pulled out my wallet to retrieve the address so I could look up the bastard's name. I opened the wallet and noticed all my cash was gone. I had given the waitress $50. I should have at least $100 left in there. Damn it, someone stole money from my wallet. I said a little too loudly and my head started pounding again. The bar wasn't even close to full when I got there. The waitress did have a huge smile on her face as I took you away. Keith said. Bitch. Another lesson learned, you can't trust women. I said. I found the address in my wallet and looked up the ownership of the house. I got the name and then looked him up. There was a picture online, that was him, I'd recognize his face anywhere. He was an executive at one of the large tool and die companies in the area. I didn't know how, but he would pay for what he did. Now that I know all I needed to know, I told my brother I was going to crash for a couple more hours and then head home. It was a Saturday. Robin would be at work most of the day, probably making special deliveries. When I got home, I started packing up my wife's things. Packing is not quite correct. Putting everything in 55-gallon trash bags is what I really did. As I was putting the last of it on our front porch, her car pulled up in the drive. She got out and walked toward the front door with a puzzled look on her face. What is all this? I didn't know we had this much trash. She questioned. This is only part of it. The main trash is right in front of me, I said. She again looked puzzled. What? Are you feeling okay? No, not since yesterday afternoon when I saw what I thought was my loving, faithful wife kissing and being groped by another man. This is all your clothes and jewelry, take them with you when you go. A shocked look came over her face and her hand went up to cover her mouth. No, Kurt, please don't do this. Just take this shit and leave. I'm sure Dan Sherwood will let you sleep with him in his house again, I said forcefully. Her eyes got wide. She got a stern look on her face and resorted to her usual way of dealing with people when they made her mad. She started putting me down. He's twice the man you are or ever will be. You're so boring and predictable, Mr. Goody Two-Shoes. You can't be surprised that I would want to be with a real man. That did it. Get the hell out of here, you whore. I screamed at the top of my voice. I hope the neighbors heard. I didn't care. I would not be Mr. Goody Two-Shoes anymore. I went inside and slammed the door. She tried the door, but I had locked it. In fact, her key didn't work because I had changed the lock and alarm code. I may be boring and predictable, but I was not stupid. I think I saw her crying as she loaded her car. Good thing she had a crossover vehicle for all those trash bags. After she left, I closed up the house and took off in my car. I wanted to see if she went to his house. I got there, but her car was not in the drive. Maybe it was in the garage. I went up to the door and rang the doorbell. A woman in her mid-30s answered the door. Behind her, a 6 or 7-year-old girl ran up to the door also. So the asshole is married. I thought to myself. Hello, may I help you? She asked. Yes, may I speak to your husband? Sure. Dan, there's someone at the door to see you, she announced. Won't you come in? She asked. No, I don't want to impose. His will only take a couple minutes. I stepped back from the door a couple steps. Dan came out and shut the door. Can I help you? That's when I hit him square in the face. His nose immediately gushed blood. He bent over and then I kicked him in the crotch. He didn't feel like twice the man than me. He went down. I kicked him in the ribs, then again in the crotch. His hands were covering, so I really kicked him in the hands. I heard at least one finger break. I rung the doorbell, and when his wife opened the door again, I simply said, Your husband has been cheating on you with my wife. I hope you have a pleasant day. I went back to my car and pulled onto the street. I only made it 3 blocks before I was pulled over. Man, it pays to be rich. They must have cops on every other corner. Needless to say, I ended up in jail. I had to stay until Monday when the judge could do a hearing. I called my brother. Are you drunk again? He asked as he answered the phone. I haven't heard from you this much in the last 3 years. I'm in jail, and Monday can you bail me out after the hearing? I've got the money. I can let you take it out of my stash. Again, I'm not stupid. I had taken all the money out of the bank and hid it at home. Monday morning, after a day and a half in jail, I was eager for the hearing. The judge did not go easy on me. I guess the physical damage I caused to a man of his standing in the community meant I was going to get the shaft. Bail was set at $50,000. Wow. That would take a big hit out of my stash. Keith had to go back to the house to get the rest. He thought $25,000 would be more than enough. I sure learned my lesson: don't resort to violence. When I got home, Robin was waiting in the driveway. You asshole, you cost me my job, she yelled. That's okay, I'm sure Dan will pay for your services, I retorted calmly. He's in the hospital, and his wife told him to find someplace else to go when he gets out. You ruined his marriage, he's got 2 small kids, she yelled again. No, you ruined his marriage. I just brought it to her attention, I again said calmly. We need to talk about living arrangements, she said. If you can pay the mortgage, you can live here, I said. You can't do that, it's my house too, she spat. I'll get the police to make you let me in. Your name is not on the mortgage or the deed. Let them try to force me. I'll sue the police department, I countered. Where am I supposed to live? She asked. Where have you been staying for the past 2 days? I asked. With my sister, but her house is full with her own family, she answered. What does she think of what you've done? I questioned. She doesn't know. I told her we were having marital problems, she said in a subdued voice. That's an understatement. You had a good life, we had a good life, why did you destroy it? I asked. I thought I wanted more, she confessed. Well, now you can have more with him, he's got money. Pick him up from the hospital and go away with him, preferably far away, I said. He isn't going to marry me. He wants to get his wife and kids back, she replied. So I guess you're just a slut. Unless he paid you, then you're a whore, I said matter-of-factly. It was just a fling, Kurt, can't we get past this? She pleaded. When hell freezes over, I screamed. She stormed off. I went inside, locked the door, and went straight to bed. I hadn't gotten much sleep the last 2 nights. The next day I visited the hospital. Most of the nursing staff knew me. I sold medical equipment to the hospital and checked with the staff periodically as to how it is performing. I acted like I was just on another sales call. In the intensive care ward, I noticed the patient in room 415 and asked about him. What's wrong with him? He was beaten pretty bad, 3 broken ribs, broken nose, broken fingers and a ruptured testicle. She said quietly. Wow, I'd hate to be him. I whispered. Yeah, and his wife has only been here one time and she didn't seem too sympathetic. She said. Ouch. I winced. I made the rest of my rounds and walked out of the hospital with a smile on my face. I had never gotten into a fight before. The adrenaline and rage helped me to reap my revenge. I stopped at a few other accounts, but my heart was not in it. Why had my wife done it? We had a great life, big house, nice cars, traveling Caribbean, Europe, and even Asia last year. We were going to start our family this year. I sure am glad we hadn't now. I'd hate to put children through a divorce. I went to a park and just sat there in deep thought. After what must have been an hour, I called Keith. Hey Keith, how are you doing? How are you doing? He asked. Robin was there when I got home from getting my car out of impound. We had a few words, not pretty. I'm sorry to hear that. Any chance of you two getting past this? He asked. When hell freezes over. I said. Well, I guess that answers that question. So why did you call? He asked. I was calling to see if you and Jenny would like to go out to dinner tonight, my treat. I'll call her and get back to you, he said. Jenny was Keith's girlfriend. She may as well be his wife. They have been together longer than Robin and I, living together for the last 6 years. I don't know why he doesn't take the plunge. It is obvious they love each other. I thought Robin and I loved each other too. I must be wrong. I guess she didn't love me as much as I loved her. Now we are facing a divorce. Maybe Keith had the right idea. At least they could just walk away, no legal shit to go through. My phone rang, it was Keith. They were on for dinner tonight. We decided on Applebee's at 6 o'clock. At dinner I thanked them for putting up with me Friday night. Jenny said, no problem for me. I made Keith clean you up. I liked Jenny, she had a great personality to go with a decent face and body. I don't know how Keith got so lucky. The next day I hired a defense attorney. He checked into the case and said the trial was set for 5 months from now. Wow, I guess the legal system works slow for the rich as well as the average man. Over the next couple of months I had many more heated discussions with Robin. I had contacted a divorce attorney and it looked like I was going to get screwed in a divorce. She would get 1/2 of everything, plus it was likely I'd have to pay alimony for at least 3 years or until she got remarried. That was bullshit. I was the offended party here. I decided that I would not pursue a divorce, let her file, which she did. I would fight it just to prolong it as long as possible. Needless to say, I spent my nights alone watching TV, movies, playing video games and surfing porn. Hey, I needed to get some release. My night habits started encroaching into my mornings, then into midday. It wasn't long before this affected my job. Sales started slipping, then it was a serious downhill slide. I was called into the office and they read me the riot act. I improved a little but not fast enough. Soon they started taking accounts away from me to ensure the customers got the service they deserved. I'm sure you can guess I lost my job. You can't expect to keep anything in life if you neglect it. I learned my lesson. During this time, Robin pursued the divorce. The first hearing was performed about a week after I lost my job. That turned out to be worthless. Without a job, all the financial numbers were obsolete. We rescheduled another hearing for 2 weeks later. I had to supply all new financial records. That night I went out to a bar downtown. I would drink, but no way was I going to get drunk again. I didn't need that headache, literally and figuratively. As I was sitting there nursing a drink, a woman started to talk to me. I haven't seen you in here before, she stated. I've never been here before. I was downtown for a divorce hearing and need to drown my sorrows. I explained. Do you want to tell me about it? She asked. I told her my story. She said, I think I have something to help you out. I looked at her, puzzled. How much money do you have? She asked. Remembering being ripped off by the waitress, I was cautious. Why? I can make you happy, for an hour at least, she said. I looked at her again. I don't know what prostitutes are supposed to look like, but I wasn't expecting that. Playing dumb, I said. How? I've got some coke and we can share it, then I can share my body with you. It will cost you though. I thought about it for a minute. I had never tried drugs and definitely never used a hooker. Then I thought, what the hell, it's better than going home and jacking off. Where do we go? I asked. There's a motel down the street that rents by the hour, she said. So we left the bar. We discussed payment on the way. It would set me back $150 with the motel. At this point, I sure hoped it was worth it. Wow. What a rush. I felt like I was on top of the world again. I could do anything. She went down on me. Man, did she have talent. She started slowly caressing my body, and then she put one then the other in here. She slowly worked her lips down, then back up. I felt like I was in heaven. I sure hoped it was not over. The disappointment didn't last long though. She climbed on top of me and started riding my shaft. Her peach were bouncing up and down. What a sight. I smiled in euphoria. I was definitely on top of the world and she was on top of me. I'm happy to say that I lasted a lot longer the second time. My second load felt like it went on for 5 minutes. They would definitely have to change the sheets when we were done. I sure hope they changed them before we started. I lie there exhausted, my chest pumping up and down trying to recover. She had gotten up, cleaned, and dressed. She was preparing to leave when I asked her, "Can we do this again sometime?" "Sure, honey. Next time though it will have to be $200. I didn't know we would be here for 2 hours. How do I find you?" I asked. "I'm at the bar most every night. You'll find me if you get there early enough," she responded. I smiled as I laid there for another 15 minutes. I was thinking how my life had changed in just a few months. I was definitely not Mr. Goody Two-Shoes anymore. I made it back to the bar, hopped into my car and drove home. I was still feeling the residual effect of the coke, but only a little. When I laid down to sleep, I went comatose almost immediately. When I awoke the next morning, I had to eat. I couldn't remember the last time I had a home-cooked meal. I made myself breakfast waffles, omelette, sausage and bacon, and orange wedges. I had to eat something healthy. I was stuffed, fat, and happy. I looked down at myself. I was fat. The last couple of months I had been hitting fast food morning, noon, and night. In between those I was snacking all the time. I bet I had gained 30 to 40 pounds. I know I had bought new pants 2 sizes bigger in the waist. I would have to start jogging. I half-heartedly promised myself that I would start next week, Monday. Friday rolled around and I wanted more of that terrific love. So I hit the bar. Yes, that bar. She was there. I had taken $400 out of my stash. It was down to $10,000 now. I wasn't worried though. I still had the $50,000 bail money being held by the court. Once the trial was over, the lawyer paid along with the fine. I'd have more money. I waved to her. She smiled and headed over to me. I didn't even know her name. I had just called her babe. She had called me honey. "Hey honey, how are you tonight?" "Great babe, are you free tonight?" I asked. "You know I'm not free, but I'm available," she quipped. "You were amazing last time, but I was wondering, I've never had a threesome. Do you know another girl that might be willing? I can pay $350 for both of you," I questioned hopefully. "I usually don't work with anyone, but I believe there is a new girl working the room tonight. Maybe we can talk her into it. I need $200 though," she informed me. She pointed her out to me. She seemed okay. "Do you want me to approach here?" I asked. "Sure honey, let her know I'm game if she is," she said. So I approached her and made light conversation. Pretty soon I felt comfortable to broach the subject. She looked uncomfortable, but I told her I'd pay her $150 and the other girl was also a professional, as I pointed babe out. She agreed and we headed out to my car. We drove to the motel, I got us a room, and started by opening my wallet and handing them each their money. That's when the new girl pulled out a badge and gun and told us both we were under arrest. She called for backup and we were hauled off to jail. Another weekend in jail. I learned another lesson: hookers are trouble. The weekend gave me a lot of time to sit, think and look at my life and body. It was going downhill fast. I needed to do something. I recommitted myself to start to jog on Monday. As to my life, while doing the bad things was kind of exciting, I wasn't liking the consequences. I needed to get back to my former life as soon as possible, but how? I couldn't bring myself to reconcile with Robin. I still had my pride. I wish I could find someone like Keith did. Jenny was a great person and she was as loyal as the day is long. Monday, after the hearing, I posted bail with a credit card. I was only $5,000. I got my car out of impound again. I drove home, changed into my exercise clothes and went out the door down to the beach. I figured the best way to work up a sweat and get some of these pounds off would be to jog. I started slow, not much faster than a turtle. Once I felt my muscles were warmed up, I pushed myself. It felt good that I was actually doing something to better myself. I was humming along at what must have been at least a 5 miles per hour rate. I was sweating the pounds off, I just knew it. True, I was huffing and puffing a little bit, and I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. But I was running, taking back my body and my life. Things were going to be different. I was going to control my destiny from now on. I was going to live my life the way I wanted, doing what was best for me. Damn the rest of the world. Then it happened. I know now it was a heart attack. I collapsed on the sand. I woke up lying on the sand, still sweating my peach off. No one had come to my rescue. It has been months now, and I'm still sweating my peach off. I'm sitting on this stone bench, but I don't want to get up and lose my seat. I just wish it wasn't so damn hot. My wife and Keith had asked me, "Can't we get past this?" I would tell her yes now, if only to alleviate this oppressive heat.